Look at this, boys. The style, the cut, the shirt. We are absolutely so back. It's not even close. Oh, yeah. Good times ahead. The autofill barber does it again. Zero regrets. And I hope to only hear good comments. Thank you very much. In any case, another day, another group of developers think that we gamers, the ones that literally give them money and make them successful, do not deserve an opinion. Or if we do, it always should be positive of their poor choice making. Ah, what a time to be alive indeed.
Why do things have to be like this? There are some people that believe that you should not have opinions over products that you paid for, that you have no right to ownership, and that you are just so tragically undereducated and misinformed into the process in which games are made that your opinions are not only useless, but honestly outright harmful to the games industry itself. Just stop asking so many questions.
Popular opinion. A lot of game developers think like this. And they're called Ubisoft. Literally billions in debt. Probably gonna go bankrupt in the next upcoming years. Activision Blizzard are doing as poorly as honestly ever. The company that owns Battlefield, complete disaster, which is also Activision Blizzard, by the way. All of these companies that do not care about the opinions of gamers, it's really strange, in my opinion, how always they are the ones that are doing the poorest. I honestly think it's really nice. And also, just to further on to go on this point, you can have opinions even if you don't own things. A lot of the woke stuff that I say is gonna be bad, I'm not spending a dime on it. I don't need to buy a piece of shit to know that I bought a piece of shit. I don't have to taste test it. I don't have to go make it go for a spin. I don't need to do any of that. I have this neat little thing called pattern recognition, and it's very high. And so I can figure out the things that are bad without having to buy them. So remember, when anyone tells you you can't have an opinion on this thing because you didn't buy it, you didn't play it, or whatever, you just call them a poor shill and move on, because these people are stupid and they don't understand real life.
Questions, consumer. Keep consuming. Please. It's been a while since we talked about stop killing games. While the movement has had a lot of success, more success than I think a lot
It's dead.
of people probably expected that it would, it now stands against the greatest threat possible. No, not pirate software. No, instead, it's politicians, lobbyists, and the executives of these companies that, well, are just wearing the mask of people that are trying to protect the games industry, when in reality, they're all just career scum that are really much more interested in trying to protect their corporate interests from its own customers. And in this case, they've turned to just straight up lying to try to get their way. Recently, members of parliament in the EU, as well as some people over here stateside, have been meeting privately behind closed doors with CEOs like the guy from Ubisoft.
I was gonna say, fun fact, the person that behind closed doors got to decide the fate of stop filling games was some idiot at Ubisoft. Yes. Yes.
As well as the ESA and Video Games Europe, the lobbying groups that are representing a lot of these guys, and it's all in an effort to just try to stop you from owning products that you paid for by effectively misinterpreting our demands, reframing the entire argument, exaggerating the damages of proposed solutions, and also trying to make it sound like this is going to destroy indie games. Ah, yes. Why don't we massive corporations try to make it look like these customers are trying to pick on the little guy? Perfect. So today what I want to do is I want to talk about who is trying to take your rights away, how the games industry is now mounting a defense against its own customers, how they've been trying to twist our words in every single way they possibly can, and for all the kicking and screaming that these guys have been doing, they stand to gain just as much as we do from winning. I'm proud to be an American, and I'm proud to own a Helix mattress. That's right, today's video is sponsored by Helix. I can't speak for everyone, but as somebody that grew up during the physical era of games, the idea of ownership never crossed my mind. It was something that just simply existed. It was never under threat or even in question. Still to this day, I have an entire library of games that remain completely playable. Everything from Super Mario Bros. 3 on the NES and Power Stone on my Dreamcast to Bouncer on the PS2. There is absolutely nothing that is stopping me from playing these games, and nobody is going to be knocking on my door trying to take them
Someone's gonna try and figure out a way to stop this, by the way.
away. But
At some point, video games industry is gonna understand that people have a massive backlog of games that they own, and that they're not buying new games because of that. And at some point, the video game industry is gonna make a deal with Microsoft, Windows, and I don't know, probably Sony or Samsung or someone like that who makes TVs for the console plebs. Ugh, disgusting. And they're gonna put in some kind of system that recognizes that you're trying to play an old game, and they're not gonna let you do that. They're gonna do that. They're gonna at some point they're gonna try and do that. You know they will.
somewhere during the transition from physical to digital media, seemingly overnight and without any real notification or consent, the games industry stripped that ownership away from us. Now, something I haven't seen too many people try to discuss is exactly how or why this happened. So, during the physical era of games, the games were fully contained to a storage device, and the licensing agreements were generally tied to the production and distribution of the game. Publishers could print a set number of copies, they would then sell those copies, and the customers who bought them could continue using them, regardless of whether or not the publisher had renewed those agreements or just stopped printing the game entirely. Today, the architecture of that deal has changed completely. Companies can now sell an effective infinite number of digital copies, nothing stopping them from doing so, which is great for their bottom lines and their costs and their goals. But when those games are depending on authentication servers and licenses that are no longer renewed, companies can just shut down those servers and take our access along with them. The best way that I can sum this up is that the games industry has conflated its ability to continue selling something with our ability to continue owning it. Two things that should not, under any circumstances, have anything to do with one another. The only reason they do is because this industry doesn't want to fix the issue that it created, and also they want absolute control. They do not want you guys
Yeah, I have no idea what he's talking about, by the way.
trading and reselling games because they don't get a cut, and they don't want you playing an old game forever because you're supposed to be buying the shiny new one that they just put out, which honestly would have worked out flawlessly for these guys if any of this made sense, but it doesn't.
It would have worked out flawlessly for them if they tried to make good games. The only companies that are struggling to sell video games are the companies that don't want to make video games for the consumer. It's the companies that want to make a political statement and sell you it as a game. Those are the companies that are struggling. Everyone else is doing fine. Everyone else is actually breaking records. By the way, never make this mistake. The video game market is the largest it has ever been, and its future growth is going to be even more massive. Video games have taken over a lot of industries in revenues, profits, margins, and all of these things. It is insane how up there video games are. Okay, and the market is getting bigger and bigger, and there's currently absolutely no reason to think it's gonna stop. So the fact that someone's struggling while they had effectively first comer advantage. What's the name of that? It's not first comer advantage, but it's the one who got there first. And they're struggling? That's on them. They're just idiots.
And because of that, players around the world organized against it through Stop Killing Games. We've covered this movement many times in the past, so I'm not going to rehash the entire story, but it began...
In case Pirate Software is watching, and he probably is because he's a loser, you probably should on.
And with Ross Scott and Accursed Farms, it survived Pirate Software's attempt to stop it, and then it used that controversy to explode onto the world stage. What began as a very niche preservation campaign became one of the most organized and successful movements this hobby has ever seen. I've honestly never been prouder to support something like this, and I'm honestly even more proud of the gaming community as a whole. I think it's really easy for a lot of us just to feel powerless against governments and corporations and just complain online and assume nothing's ever going to change, but Stop Killing Games is one of those rare moments where players actually came together, organized, and made something happen. We got the petitions in both the UK and EU, and we reached the required signatures. Ross Scott represented consumers In European Parliament, the movement is now crossed into the United States, where California introduced AB 1921 to stop these companies from effectively destroying games that customers had already purchased. That bill has now passed the Assembly, and it's now moving closer to becoming law. Things are moving way faster than I think most people probably expected, and apparently it's a lot faster than what the games industry expected, because the organizations that are representing these companies are now moving directly against us. After the European petition reached its goal, Video Games Europe.
By the way, this is a 2 days old video, so I'm not sure when it was told, but yeah, Stop Killing Games is dead. I thought making about a video about it tomorrow, maybe, but yeah, it's effectively dead. Europe said that the multi-billion corporations are too stupid to actually do the thing that they were doing 20 years ago. So that's kind of it. And if that sounded dumb and you're confused, good. So am I. So am I. The confused part.
Came out in opposition of it. This is a collection of lawyers and lobbyists representing companies including Nintendo, Roblox, Epic Games, Activision, Microsoft, and Ubisoft. They reframed the demand for ownership, exaggerated what it would actually require, and then just kind of dismissed it wholesale. Now, those exact same lobbyists, alongside Ubisoft CEO Yves Guillemot, are privately meeting with European officials as they attempt to stop the movement from going any further. The exact same thing is happening right here in the United States. The Entertainment Software Association, or the ESA, a group that claims to be made up of people that love games, full stop, has sprung into action against California's bill. In reality, it's just another collection of lawyers and lifelong lobbyists that are representing companies including Amazon, EA, Netflix, and Wizards of the Coast, effectively just the Legion of Doom in this case.
Oh, Jesus. Wizards of the Coast. Yeah, you know it's bad when that happens.
And last week, they submitted a letter trying to shut down the entire thing. In a letter written by the ESA president and CEO, the organization argues that AB 1921 threatens modern online gaming because it fundamentally misunderstands how they're built and maintained. According to the ESA, when the publisher shuts down a server-connected game, the bill would force them to choose between running it indefinitely, rebuilding it to function without technical support, or providing a full refund to every customer, regardless of how long they owned or played the game. In their words, this legislation is attempting to guarantee that if somebody pays for access to an online game, they can keep that access for as long as they want. How tragic. They argue that this is unrealistic because online games depend on enormous invisible infrastructure of online servers, developers, moderators, patches.
Not my problem. Not my fucking problem. That's how easy it is. Don't make an online game if this is an issue for you.
And ongoing technical support, even after most players leave. They then claim that
Also, by the way, this is just a typical lie. We already know that these big corporations are making lies up about this, and that it's misrepresenting Stop Killing Games, effectively pulling a pirate software. So the issue with this is not what Stop Killing Games is asking. Stop Killing Games is not asking to keep the game updated forever. They're not asking you to have moderation for it. They're not asking for any of this stuff, pretty much. Just an ability to have the game up. And if that means giving people the ability to make private servers, let that be it, and then it's the player's problem. It's that simple, honestly. Developers would not have to do anything, pretty much, to actually make this happen.
Structure would still need to operate at nearly the same cost. They then start pointing to licensed music, likenesses, and branding, arguing that requiring these games to remain playable for as long as they possibly could go for would force these publishers to renegotiate their licenses forever or remove content in a way that changes the creator's original intent. From there, they argue that keeping...
They're already doing that. Well, these are such bad arguments.
Old games alive would drain money and resources from creating new ones. Every dollar spent on outdated systems, they say, is a dollar not spent building a new one, with those costs ultimately being
It's a dollar not put into ESG score and wokeness. That's what it is.
Passed down to customers. They also claim that if every game becomes a permanent obligation, publishers will simply make fewer games, less ambitious games like online games, and compare this proposal to expecting companies to continue to support their first car, smartphone, or operating system.
What a tragedy.
Forever. The ESA said that this would entirely create a new category of consumer product, conflicting with American copyright law and disproportionately hurting smaller developers, pointing out that nearly 2/3 of American game companies have fewer than 10 employees. Their conclusion is that while AB 1921 might sound like a consumer-friendly decision, demanding forever from developers would harm creators, reduce the number of games being made, and ultimately undermine the industry.
Who here gives a shit? Raise your hand if you actually give a single crap about the fact that that more Vogue games are not going to get produced, that more slop is not going to get piped by AAA. Oh no, the tragedy, the horror.
The bill claims to protect. Oh man, doesn't that just sound absolutely devastating? Don't you just want to shed a tear until you realize almost none of what they just described is what the bill or Stop Killing Games is actually asking for? These snakes immediately
Poor arbiter gameplay. Many such cases.
try to reframe and obfuscate the issue, making it an entire discussion about live service games, just the same as Pirate Software did. Maybe that's where they're getting their information from. Now, this is a popular misconception, and even some supporters will still repeat it. I'm not throwing any shade here, but Bellular has made multiple videos on the topic and still frames this all around live service games. The crew may have launched this campaign, but today, every single game, live service or not, can still fall under this exact same issue. Physical games aren't even physical anymore. Many of these require additional downloads. And if the servers that are supporting those downloads disappear, well, then the disc just becomes effectively useless. The same can be said for a lot of these digital games. The original Alan Wake was delisted because of music licenses. Spec Ops The Line disappeared because of expired partnership licenses. There is a long list of games that have been affected already by this exact same problem. This is not about live service games. This is about anything and everything we buy being held hostage behind a 20,000 word end user license agreement where publishers expressly claim that they can revoke our access whenever they want for any reason they want or no reason at all, and that we may even be legally required to destroy property that we paid for. These weapons-grade plutonium-enriched morons trying to use the comparison that manufacturers no longer support their first car, smartphone, or operating system when that is quite literally the exact contradiction we are trying to point out. We can still use and own those products after official support ends. It becomes our responsibility to maintain them. But the manufacturer's not showing up at our door, kicking it down and trying to take that stuff away simply because they no longer sell or support that stuff. Nobody is asking for permanent updates, moderation, patches, or live support. A game being playable is not the same thing as a game being actively maintained. It is such a dishonest reframing. The licensing agreements, the argument they had with that is equally dishonest in this case. Losing the right to keep selling a game is not the same thing as gaining the right to erase copies that people already bought. Publishers already remove music, replace content, and delist games when their licenses expire. None of that requires you destroying access for existing owners. Then they go on to claim that game preservation would somehow drain money away from future games, but that only happens when these companies build no end-of-life plan and wait until the server shut down to deal with it. If preservation is considered during development, it becomes a part of their architecture, a part of their plan without having to be this emergency rebuild years later. Keep in mind that the proposed consumer protections have no expectations of games made in the past, and instead, it's all just for games made in the future.
True, also true.
And copyright has nothing to do with this. Owning a copy of a game does not mean you own that intellectual property. I don't know why these guys would try to frame it that way. It just means that you're allowed to continue using something that you paid for. Well, at least I can say that these guys never fail to surprise me. This is an industry that is in open contempt, active contempt in this case, of their own audience, and they believe that their ability to make money off of something needs to be directly tied to our ability to own something, which makes absolutely no sense.
Yes. I mean, wait. What I thought this makes actually perfect sense from the business point of view, because if you buy something of theirs and it breaks, there's a huge chance you're gonna buy that thing again from them, or a more expensive one. That's how they're looking at this. If you no longer own that thing, you're gonna replace it. It makes perfect business sense. And it's as evil as it sounds, yes, by the way, obviously.
And I'm hoping that lawmakers also see it from that perspective, because these guys are trying to do everything they possibly can to say and just wiggle their way out of this situation because they just don't have an answer to this argument. That's really all this is. These guys are so stupid, so unbelievably stupid. The ESA represents some of the largest corporations within the games industry, yet for whatever reason, you guys are trying to come out and you're trying to move this towards indie studios, 10-person teams. Like, these guys are going to be the ones that are going to get crushed under this.
Yes. Getting rid of competition. Again, all of this, by the way, what the big companies are doing makes perfect sense. Do not get that twisted. It does make perfect sense. It's designed to force us to abandon what we have, so we buy the new shit. That's more money for them. Allows them to pump out more slop faster. And creates safety for them in knowing that we will be forced to buy it anyway. And if we can put regulations in to stop indie development, which is obviously their biggest problem, because there have been over the years a lot of indie studios that are now competing with AAA, and the players love them more than the AAA that we used to love. I mean, let's be real. Any studio that I have never used the product of is probably better than Bethesda at this point. So, there you have it. And if they can make it hard for indies to exist and most of them shut down, even better. Less competition on the market. There you go. Now everyone's forced to buy your thing. Do they like it or not? Because there's no competition. Every company at the end of the day, if they could, they would create a monopoly. That's how this works. That is the ultimate game. That is the ultimate game of business. Create a monopoly.
This kind of regulation, miss me with that. Now you're just straight up lying. These guys don't even use the same kind of infrastructure as you. They're not using the same kind of licenses. They're not using product placement. They're not hiring Hollywood voice actors to come in and voice act gelatinous cubes. They're not using music.
Yeah, which is also horrible and no one asked.
Licenses, I guess, unless you're Annapurna in some cases, but it just doesn't make any sense. And for the fact that these guys would come through and try to steal that valor and try to use their name to be able to shift the focus of this just makes them that much more disgusting, because these guys likely want their games to be playable forever. Talk to most indie devs. They support stop killing games. Always have. This is just so pathetic. Gaslighting and trying to reframe the issue around live service games as well, that doesn't even make any sense, man. The law that's being proposed, as well as Stop Killing Games just as an organization, has gone out of their way to make sure that the live service free-to-play slop that these companies have been trying to peddle is not a part of this discussion. That expectation's not there. This is about games that people buy. For the free-to-play stuff, if it dies, it dies. Most people don't have a problem with that. Now, It's probably for the best in a lot of cases. It just kind of goes to show that these guys don't have any leg to stand on here. They've been caught red-handed. It's absolutely embarrassing. For all the lawyers these guys have, this is all they could possibly muster. The only thing that's going to stop killing games at this point is whether or not any of these politicians can be bought off.
Yes.
Hopefully not. What makes matters worse is just like...
Yeah, again, we already know the outcome. This is a 2-day-old video or something. The answer is yes. The answer is Stop Killing Games is already dead.
How stupid all of this is. Because for these greaseball lawyers and CEOs and these lobbyists that are going in and they're trying to actively work against our sense of ownership, these guys don't realize how much this actively works against their own business. Because the minute you start destroying the things that we bought, how is that going to make us trust the next thing you sell? Back in 2024, financial analyst Matt Piscatello reported that 53% of Nintendo Switch software sales were digital, compared to 78% on PlayStation 5 and 91% on Xbox. Physical PC releases barely even exist anymore, so that market is effectively 100% at this point, which all lines up with Capcom's recent financial reporting showing that 90% of their unit sales are coming from digital downloads. Almost everyone buys games digitally now, and it makes complete sense. It's faster, it's cheaper, it's a hell of a lot more convenient. We just press buy and we immediately have
I mean, the irony is it's not actually cheaper, but okay.
Access to a game. We don't got to worry about driving to a store, discovering it's out of stock, searching for it somewhere else, making room on a shelf, or worrying about a disc being damaged. We just install it, play it, and then uninstall it whenever we want, and then install it again when we want to come back to it. But as the technology has improved, the games industry has quite literally just changed the terms of that transaction. Digital distribution, permanent internet connections, account systems, and remote authentication were all kind of sold to us as these conveniences, but instead they've just stripped away our control while making these games actively worse. And we've seen the consequences of this every single year. Sony completely destroyed the momentum of Helldivers 2 by trying to force PlayStation account logins, revoking access through roughly 180 countries. It damaged the game's reputation, completely destroyed its sales momentum, and then that was all because Sony wanted players inside of their account ecosystem under the guise of better service and moderation. Then there's anti-piracy systems that are forcing single-player games online for absolutely no reason, blocking legitimate customers from even playing some of these games. Third-party software like Denuvo that is actively damaging performance with constant DLC checks in games like Monster Hunter Wilds, or CPU bottlenecks in games like Dragon's Dogma 2, which contributed to those games being nearly unplayable for a lot of players. All of these systems are existing to protect these publishers, control their intellectual property, or extract more value from players. They're collecting our data to advertise products to us.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's of course the things that happens. In any case, we kind of get the point, right? AAA evil and bad and anti-consumer, consumer pro-consumer. I would have expected, right? Anyway, remember, boys, complain, keep complaining. That's the best we can do. Don't buy their slop. Just complain. Call it bad, call it out, and call the people who defend it spineless cowards. It is what it is. Anyway, that was Legendary Drops 10 out of 10. Bye.